Harlequin Intrigue and HarlequinAudio present Alibi for Murder by Debra Webb. Performed by Tusing. Reader note. If you've read my Colby Agency stories, you know the series is my longtime favorite. I hope you enjoy this one. When writing stories set in real places, it's often necessary to change things up a little. Add a house for the hero or heroine on a certain street. Drop a diner like Red's into the middle of town. Of course, it's important to have public services in the story. I often have police officers or other folk who play important roles. All are fictional, just another character living in my head. Most important, none of the characters I create who do bad things are ever based on a real person. I have the deepest respect and greatest admiration for all public and civil servants, as well as elected officials. Sometimes it just works best for the story to make one a not-so-nice character, maybe even a villain. Enjoy! Chapter 1. Woodstock, Illinois, Friday, June 6th. Foster Residence, Ridgeland Avenue, 5:30 p.m. I hope you'll complete the survey when you receive it. We at GenCorp are always here for you, 24/7. Allie Foster ended her final call for the day. For the next 10 days, actually, and removed the wireless headset. She exhaled a big breath, stood from her desk, and stretched. There was something about Fridays, even when you didn't have plans for the weekend, or her first vacation in years happening. Fridays marked a milestone of completing a week's work, of having 2 days off ahead. Well, 10 in this case. It was a good feeling. Or it would be if she had plans of any kind. Sadly, she did not. Woohoo, she grumbled as she placed the headset on her desk. She shut off the desk lamp and walked out of her office. She was taking a vacation and going nowhere. How exciting was that? She would do yard work, and maybe finally paint her bedroom. A really old-fashioned getaway from work. Wasn't she the globetrotter? Admittedly, Allie had always been a little on the old-fashioned side. Came from being raised by much older parents, she supposed. Technically, they were her grandparents. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was a toddler. She had only the faintest memories of them. Frankly, she wasn't entirely certain she remembered them at all, she decided as she slowly descended the stairs. The framed photos of her family, her parents when she was little, and her grandparents, as well as her over the years, lined the wall along the stairs. There was a strong likelihood that the stories she'd heard growing up and these photographs, along with the many family albums carefully curated by her grandmother, were the actual memories she recalled. Allie banished the idea and focused on mentally shrugging off the work week and the stress that often went with providing patient services. Answering calls all day might not sound like a tough job, but these were questions from patients who were, for the most part, terminally ill. Either they or a family member had questions about their medications, or their appointments, or simply what they should do next. GenCorp was a huge medical operation. The services provided extended across the country and involved cutting-edge, sometimes experimental, pharmaceuticals, procedures, and end-of-life patient care. There were always questions and emotions and financial issues. And although, as a nurse, Allie's job was to answer questions regarding the medical side of things, that didn't prevent frustrated patients and family members from spilling conversations over into the other difficult parts of terminal illnesses. Life during those times was complicated and painful. What she needed now was to relax with her evening glass of wine and chocolate bar. Better than sex. Probably not true, but it had been so long since she'd had sex, she wasn't entirely sure. But to believe this was the case made the idea of no prospects far more palatable and much less depressing. No one's fault but your own, Al. Relationships didn't generally come knocking on the door. One had to actually put in some effort to acquire one. Not going there. Out of habit, she walked around the first floor and checked the windows and doors. Woodstock's crime rate was fairly typical for a town of its size. Not a big town, more on the small side. Still, Decades ago, her grand...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?